Hi, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to the Harping on Rugby preview show on our YouTube channel. Please don't be shy with a like and/or subscribe button if you can. Join me to look ahead to the big match in Chicago as someone returning for his first pod of the season, his 19th Harping pod overall. Welcome back to Mr. Jay Long.
Hey Jeff, great to be back. Thanks for having
Great to have you back. And before we harp on the Test Rugby, Jason, since it's your first pod of the season, just give your quick thoughts on Leinster's season so far. I'd say they might be quick.
me. Um, yeah, I was kind of thinking about this today. I suppose if you took a holistic view of it, and if you consider the Lions tour and the South African tours forced up, and then followed by Sharks and Munster, like so, really four pretty tough fixtures with a stressed side. Plus, not even the guys who are still on holiday from the Lions, but injuries with Doris and Keenan. And if you're being realistic, we're probably only maybe one game shy of what would be a reasonable guess of what how the start of the season could have went. But I think some of the performances at times were nearly as bad, were nearly worse than the results, right? So we could getting nailed at the first game of the season, the, the way we acquitted ourselves against Munster. So the result was bad, the performance was worse, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, through the first block, job done in the most recent game. Happy to move on. Let the guys start racking up some points when we pick it up after the internationals.
I think that's fair enough. Yeah, we've harped on that a lot in our rep pods, and hopefully, when we get back to it at the end of November, the standards will improve. But anyway, listen, let's put that to one side and start looking at our feature match of the week, which was of course Ireland v New Zealand. It is apparently now known as the Gallagher Cup. It's taking place at Soldier Field in Chicago on Saturday, November 1st, kicking off at 8:10 p.m. Irish time with TV coverage on Virgin Media 1 and TNT Sports 2. Ireland named their matchday squad at lunchtime on Thursday. If you're watching us on YouTube, it should be right there on the screen. For pod listeners, you'll find it in the program notes. Jay has picked out a couple of points to talk on, starting with some big opportunities for certain players.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing when I was reading through the team sheet, was kind of I was thinking, oh, this is a big chance for X, Y, and Z, and kind of nearly different genres of chances in terms of where they are in their kind of various arcs. I mean, if you can kind of think about it, like in terms of old hands, kind of coming back in from the cold, you have Jack Crowley and Stu McCluskey, who you could probably arguably have been a bit hard done by over the last number of years. I'm always a big fan of Big Stu. He's never really put a foot wrong for us. He's maybe been put in with not so much scratch sides, but he's been given put in with for games that maybe the whole team didn't particularly do well, and maybe because of that he doesn't shine as much as he would. But he offers a really kind of unique skill set in terms of power and offloading, and I'm happy to see him get a chance here. And he's had a great start to the season with Ulster this season. So, and then Jack Rowley, like I was there in the Aviva where he picked us apart 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, he's been fantastic. And I think he probably has been underused from an Ireland point of view. I don't think the mix between himself and Sam in terms of benching and start probably hasn't been right. So very very happy to see him get a start. I think he's well worth a start. And if I'm being honest, I think he gives us a better chance to win the game on Saturday, in which I think should be the kind of be all end all there. So big chances for those guys in a very very big game. Um, and then the obvious ones like the new blood, the kind of next cab off the rank sort of picks. Like delighted for Tommy O'Brien, who is probably in here because of injuries to Mac and Calvin Nash and etc. etc. But I mean, for a guy who's had his own plague of injuries, who maybe halfway through, maybe 2 seasons ago or this season, I was wondering, are we going to get bad news about Tommy because he seems to just consistently roll a calf or do his leg. He seems to never be able to get a win in a game. So really, really delighted to see Tommy O'Brien in arguably one of the biggest, probably the biggest game of the year in international rugby, or close to outside of like a championship. Um, Delighted for him and Paddy McCarthy. What a incredible start. Getting your first cap against the All Blacks on like the guts of a 10th anniversary of our 111th dearth of wins. Um, one that I'm sure he'll remember forever. But for me, actually, the big opportunity here, that all being said, in my opinion, is Baird, right? Ryan Baird. In the post Peter O'Mahony era, um, someone needs to take that short um, by the scruff of the neck, for lack of a better term, and make it theirs, right? Stamp their name on the back of that jersey. He had an unreal end to last season for Leinster. outside that normal kind of bracket that he got originally got attention for, those kind of highlight reel freak of nature moments he had in games. Last season, we saw the other side of his game really, really come on. The nuts and bolts, the kind of the cold face work, the meat and potatoes of what you'd want a six to be. You know, his line out work massively improved. Apparently, look, Paul O'Connell had a big part of that, but you could see that he become an absolute menace and a bit more of an attitude about him as well, a bit more of a bastard for lack of a better word, which I think he needs. And I think it's time we saw that version of Ryan Baird in a green jersey, because there's plenty of lads coming up from the other provinces who are be more than willing to take that chance. Um, so I'm really hoping to see a big 80-minute performance from Ryan Baird. I think that's a massive opportunity for him, to be that new guy to own it.
Yeah, absolutely. A point well taken on Ryan Baird. I mean, obviously, you know, no one's ever going to directly replace Peter O'Mahony. I mean, he would especially was able to show up for these games.
Mm.
Against he's had some of incredible performances against the All Blacks over the years. It's just facing that opposition is going to give him that extra edge. But it's a great chance for Ryan Baird, and you're dead right about people coming up behind him. Cormac Izuchukwu was very unlucky to get injured just before this series, and he would have been in the shout for that kind of role as well. So it's a chance for Ryan Baird, and it's an interesting team overall. Gibson Park was interviewed just after they landed in Chicago, and he said they're trying out some new things. So it's be interesting to see what they're going to show the All Blacks something, maybe show them something different. There's a lot of talk about Jordy Barrett was a spy in the ranks for Leinster, and he's going to go back with all the knowledge. He's facing Stu McCluskey now, so that's interesting. He may not have been expecting that. So already there's a different look. Crowley starting at 10, Prendergast on the bench. I thought maybe we might go 6-2 and have Frawley as backup, but then so that's making me wonder: are they planning for Prendergast to come on and maybe Crowley go to fullback or something like that? Crowley to stay involved somehow. So it'd be very interesting to see how Ireland approaches this game, because I think we are in need of some kind of a new look, some kind of a new way of playing as well. A lot of the players coming back. There's a couple of new faces, but so it's more about how they play. Your second point, Jay, is about basically the captains. We've got one starting captain, Dan, and our overall captain on the bench.
Yeah, I mean we have unfortunately we have Conan and Doris basically coming back from reasonably long stints without playing. Obviously, Doris is a totally different stratosphere in terms of severity of why he was off, but Conan really hasn't seen any rugby since the Lions, and it all becomes this kind of this call from Andy in terms of how you get these guys onto the pitch. Do you play Conan at 6 and Doris at 8, and then you have two guys who are coming back in? That's a bit of a risk, and then but Doris is also obviously the team captain. So how do you get him involved? Up arrives Dan Sheehan to kind of perfectly step into that slot. I think this is a pretty good way of doing it, because it's twofold, right? It allows to load manage Doris and Conan, because both of them are reasonably unknown quantities at the moment. But obviously, Doris on form is an unbelievable impact player to bring off the bench. But also giving Dan the captaincy, it allows Doris to kind of just focus on getting back into the game, right? He's not trying to be a number 8 again after, what was it? I think maybe 6 or 7 months or 8 months since he played, or whatever number it is. He just goes on. He plays his 30 minutes. He gets back into his body. Gets himself feeling good. Apparently, they had a massive 15-minute game, or 15 versus 15 game last Saturday. Apparently, everyone turned up pretty well, but apparently Doris was taking names and that. So the management squad aren't really overly concerned about sort of fitness. They wouldn't be playing if they were. But I think what they've done here is a pretty interesting way of going about it, and it was not really guessable. I guess there was a couple of permutations there. I think there's a bit of tactics behind it, like you said, the Stu versus Aki thing. Throwing Jack in with Sam on the bench. So there does seem to be some science behind the selections there, and I think it's a good way to bring Doris back in. I'm delighted he is coming back in. I think he's going to do quite well. I think him finishing up a very, very strong 30 minutes, raring to go and hungry from being denied his chance to lift Leinster's first trophy as the club captain. He's going to. I think he's going to use that energy. I think he's going to come back with pretty strong on Saturday. I just hope he gets through it well. But I'm obviously delighted to see him back on the pitch.
Absolutely, yeah, and I mean, a lot has been said about like, oh, okay, Ireland are coming into this game cold, with Lions coming back into the team, and the squad not having been together since the Six Nations, and of course New Zealand. This is their end of year tour. They had their rugby championship, but they've had a lot of big attritional test matches in recent weeks. But it's that's the way it is in November, pretty much every year anyway. And you look back to that famous win in 2016 when Andy Farrell was there. He had just joined the setup. He was there as well for that day. He saw us. That was also our first game of the season. Exact same situation, and we all know what happened then. So it's possible there. And Doris back from a long injury, but he is that kind of player who can come back and just hit the ground running. Be great to see him coming on at some stage. But and we know Jack Conan's sort of in that bracket as well. So it
Yeah.
is an exciting team overall.
Yeah, and even from a psyche point of view, if you imagine the different headspace coming into Chicago Field initially, the guts of 10 years ago, where it's nearly feels like this insurmountable thing that we're going to get over. These guys know how to beat the All Blacks now.
Hmm.
It's never a gimme. It's the All Blacks, right? But these guys will have a game plan. They've done it before. We won on a tour away not too long ago. Um, they have plenty of emotional energy from, without saying the quarterfinal, but from the quarterfinal of the World Cup. Like these guys won't be coming in here with a massive monkey in their back here. They'll know if they stick to the processes, if they play well and play within their own power, that the result is never going to be a gimme. But we're 50-50 over the last decade in terms of how often we beat these guys, and we're well able to do it. So
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely worth looking forward to. Okay, well, listen, now it's time to just have a quick look at New Zealand. Now, they're not exactly a rugby nation that's happy with second place, especially when it's behind the Springboks. Yet, not only is that the case in the current world rankings, it also happened in the last two rugby championships. They've won the last couple of tests against Ireland, though, as you say yourself, the teams have split their last 10 meetings, going back to that famous day in Chicago in 2016. What do you make of that All Blacks lineup, Jay?
yeah, I'm worried if they do they have enough captains. Is the main question. They've gone with the three captain approach, 20% starting captains. But obviously it's an interesting the dynamic, the Geordie factors. Obviously people have been talking about. I don't think it's as big of a deal as it is. I'm more worried about Geordie being Geordie rather than Geordie having any sort of intimate knowledge of how our lads play. But I'm more worried about seeing how good he was from an extra capacity that he's on the starting 15. I'm particularly happy to see Satiti not starting. That was surprising. He's obviously a bit of a baller. Um, kind of Ardy aside, I'd say the back five in general is a little less than ideal from the All Black point of view. I mean, they're missing Vai and Tuapolotu from the second row. So that's probably an area of opportunity that we saw Byrne. We have Baird, Byrne, Conan, James Ryan. So we have plenty of good line operators. So that's something we could probably go after. But in terms of, you know, in terms of the areas I'm worried about, they're all the usuals, right? So we have Barrett cubed. We have the three boys there who are just gold dust, right? And we have Will Jordan in the backfield who can take, who can try from anywhere. And that new winger who I've forgotten the name of is going to be on James Lowe's wing is absolutely lightning. And we know James Lowe is many things, but pace wouldn't be massively up there. Although I have no concerns with being able to kind of mark that wing, but it's a dangerous team. They're the sort of team that could go out and do put 70 points on anyone. But with the kind of the changes they have in there, they also feel like the sort of team that if we go out there and meet them head on, kind of the kind of adage of everyone has a plan until they're punched in the face. If we go out there and hang in there and show them that this isn't going to be a gimme either, I think that the sort of side that maybe we can get at, certainly have a much more experienced back five, which I think could be a massive factor on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing I've always said about the All Blacks is that they tend to play their game and they stay with it, and that's the way they've always had this kind of hubris to the way they play, and that this is what we do, and it doesn't matter who we're playing, we're gonna play this way. But that said, like you said, they've lost five times to Ireland in the last 10 years, including a series at home. So, you would think eventually someone's going to come along and say, maybe we better sort of suss out how we're going to play against these guys. And maybe that's part of the whole Agent Geordie experiment thing. But no, seriously, it'll be interesting to see how they line up. how they go to play. It's like lots of threats around the place, but it's not their ideal team. There's two ways of looking at it. Like they have been hurt. That rugby championship again, that defeat in Wellington was huge. I mean, they beaten them the week before, but just to get crushed 7 days later that way. I mean, that's going to be real. That's going to really sting for them, and they're going to want to. And they know that if they lose this game, they'll drop even further down those rankings. I know rankings don't mean everything, but any kind of a list with those teams, you want to stay up there. So
Yeah, they've
they'll
definitely not
definitely be
taken
motivated.
they've definitely not taken your advice, Jeff. They're calling it the Grand Slam Tour.
Yeah.
But they call it the Grand Slam Tour before they even set foot in the plane. So they've broken the Harpen Golden Rule. So it's their own fault what happens on Saturday. So if we do come out on top.
Absolutely, yeah. Too. I'm afraid to even say it now, and then the Six Nations is that far away. But yeah, no. Listen, that's be like I said, it'd be interesting to see how they line up. Okay, I have a quick look at the officials. Pierre Brousset is holding the whistle, and there you can see his assistants there. Now the weather for Chicago, which is supposed to be apparently the windy city, but apparently 13 to 32 isn't that windy, so that we're lucky in that regard. 55% chance of rain. The official forecast mostly cloudy with a brief shower or two. So we'll see. It seems like pretty decent conditions for rugby anyway. So hopefully that holds up. Now it's time to just have a quick look at there's some other matches this weekend. Not all the teams are playing the November teams, but ironically, all the teams Ireland will be facing are playing. Which of the games stands out for you?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think England and Australia is probably the only fixture that I think could be up in the balance. I mean, looking at the box versus Japan, looking at the side the box have named, I didn't get a chance to look at Japan's side, but I can't really see anything other than a bit of a shoeing there on the box side. It's pretty much a blockbuster buck team named, and Japan haven't really been at the races in the last number of years. And then Scotland, USA, I think will probably be fun. But I can't really see anything other than a Scottish victory there, especially with Scotland at home. So really, it's England and Australia, and there's some tasty storylines there. Like for England, Ford is back at 10, Finn Smith on the bench. So I think that's probably good. I think George Ford is the kind of boring 10 who just gets results, and Finn Smith is obviously fantastic, which you've seen in the Lions tour. But we have Sue Ely and Max Jorgensen on the Australia side who. It's just rugby porn if those guys get going. So I think that's probably the game that I'm other than the Ireland game that I'll probably be most looking forward to.
Yeah, the Wallabies are interesting. They really regressed going up to the last ahead of the Lions tour. They were kind of regressing, but they're sort of building and they're getting results here and there, and they're sort of getting this kind of a wild card. They're hosting the next World Cup as well, and they're definitely on an upward trajectory. So we'll see how they got against England. Okay, listen, going back to our feature match, it's head on the block time. Jay, how do you see it going in Chicago?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very, very tight. I think the amount of guys we have coming back after a long stint is going to. I don't think I don't think it loses the game, but it's certainly an area we're going to have to navigate pretty carefully. I think it's going to be a very, very tight affair that we're probably going to need to keep pretty tight. I don't think it's going to be high scoring if we let it open up at all. I think it's the All Black side that's what they want us to do. But I think it's going to be really tight. I think it's going to be Ireland by less than a score.
Brilliant, yeah. Because I look back at the game in 2016. I look back at what we did at Harpen Rugby. We weren't doing pods then; it was all write ups, and the bookies had the All Blacks to win by 23 points that day, and I didn't believe either. I said they'd win by 10. I thought that was being optimistic at that stage, but you can definitely see an Ireland win if they can hit the ground running, if they can get their plan going, or if, like you say, getting punched in the face, if they can survive that and stay focused on the pitch and stay with them as much as they can. We definitely have the players to do it. So yeah, you definitely can go for an Ireland win there. Okay, listen, we're going to leave it there, man. Many thanks for joining us today, Jay. Hope to have you back on again soon.
Thanks, Jeff.
And thanks to you all for checking out our latest preview show. Be sure to enjoy the match wherever you are, and look up for that Rap Pod recording on Sunday evening. Hopefully you'll help us out by liking, sharing, and subscribing. In the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Slán.